MicroStrategy, the firm, the enterprise software company turned leverage Bitcoin proxy, purchased another $243 million of Bitcoin. But there was more news about this interesting Bitcoin proxy company that I'm going to talk about in this video. So let's get into these details.
I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/parkev for the 10 best stocks to buy now.
So as I mentioned earlier, Bloomberg reported that MicroStrategy bought another $243 million of Bitcoin, and that was the 10th consecutive weekly purchase by MicroStrategy. Now, I've been talking about MicroStrategy and how the company just needs to keep buying Bitcoin, and the CEO or chairman or I call him the leader of the company, Michael Saylor, needs to continue talking up Bitcoin, and just no matter the price, just needs to keep saying that Bitcoin is a good value, that you need to buy Bitcoin, that the dollar is a poor thing to have your money inside, and that we should all convert to Bitcoin regardless of the price. That needs to be the story. It needs to be consistent regardless of the price up or down. When the price goes down, he needs to say that it's a buying opportunity on the dip. When the price goes up, he needs to say that, well, compared to where the true value is in the future, it's still a great time to buy even though the price is up, right? So the story needs to be just keep buying regardless of the price. And so the purchases from MicroStrategy, regardless of the price action, is consistent with that strategy to just keep buying. So here's something that I'm not sure is good. And that is that the firm now owns over 2% of all the Bitcoin that will ever exist, as co-founder and chairman Saylor ramps up purchases as part of the buy and hold strategy he began in 2020. MicroStrategy now owns around $41 billion of the original cryptocurrency. Now, the reason why I say I'm not sure if this is a good thing is because I think I am of the opinion that Bitcoin needs people. It needs to be spread in order for it to gain adoption and become a more prominent part of world finance. And if one person or one company is gaining too much of a hold on Bitcoin, it might stunt its growth unless, of course, if the number of shareholders of MicroStrategy broadens out. So you have MicroStrategy owning a lot of Bitcoin, but then you have a lot of people owning shares of MicroStrategy stock. But even then, it's not that great, because then Michael Saylor will be the beneficiary of the growth of Bitcoin, the price of Bitcoin, the broadening out of Bitcoin. And I think what would be better for this asset or this cryptocurrency is for one individual to not have so much prominence, because it'll discourage other influential people from promoting Bitcoin. So Michael Saylor, of course, will continue promoting Bitcoin because the strategy for the company relies on Bitcoin, the price of Bitcoin increasing. So Michael Saylor has incentives to continue promoting Bitcoin, being an advocate of Bitcoin. But as Michael Saylor's importance in the industry increases, that detracts from other important influencers. And if their personal interests start to decrease, meaning the benefits that they will receive from promoting and advocating for Bitcoin, if those interests decrease and they feel like, hey, if I'm promoting and advocating for Bitcoin, it's going to go to benefit Michael Saylor a lot, and I'm not going to get very much benefit from that, I might not be as interested in advocating for Bitcoin. So that's why I see this as a little bit of a kind of a catch-22 situation where Michael Saylor's strategy for advocating, I would say he's been one of the best advocates for Bitcoin. But as his firm, as MicroStrategy gains in importance in this industry, it might be taking away or concentrating too much of the benefits in the hands of one firm and one individual. And this Bitcoin needs people. it needs people more than anything else. It needs people to uh, want to be a part of this uh, cryptocurrency movement, political movement, whatever you want to call it, whatever your preferred um, reason is for wanting to own Bitcoin or wanting to advocate for Bitcoin. It needs people and a concentration of power, a concentration of Bitcoin to one company and one firm. I don't think plays to that story, plays to that long-term benefit. All right, so the firm bought these Bitcoins at an average price of approximately 95,972. And like I mentioned, the price doesn't really matter for MicroStrategy. They just need to keep buying. They just need to continue advocating for Bitcoin. The price goes up. The story needs to be, well, the price target is $1 million per Bitcoin. So even if it doubles next week, it's still way below the $1 million price target, right? So that's just the story they need to keep spinning. So the price, I think, is irrelevant for the purchases. They just need to keep buying. Um, if the price goes down, they can say that we're going to buy the dip. If the price goes up, again, they just say that the price target is 1 million or 10 million or 50 million or 1 billion. They can just keep making up numbers and just saying that, well, it's way below where it should be, so we can keep buying. So the company plans to make significant purchases. They've highlighted that they want to buy roughly $40 billion worth of Bitcoin between now and 2027. And they're going to hold a vote on January 21 to decide whether to increase the number of shares outstanding. Right now, they have 330 million shares outstanding. They want to increase that up to 10.3 billion, which will allow the company to sell more shares of its stock and get money and then use that money to buy Bitcoin. So MicroStrategy also plans to raise $2 billion through an offering of perpetual preferred stock, which would be senior to a Class A common stock. If you're not aware of preferred stock, it's kind of in the middle between a bond and a stock. It pays a dividend, perpetual dividend, meaning that it goes on forever as long as the company is alive and it has money, it will pay the dividend. But if I was to speculate, I think the company will want to increase the number of Class A common stock because that's the whole thing about this company. It needs to get more money from people so that it can continue buying Bitcoin. If it can't continue buying Bitcoin, then the whole strategy might unravel. It needs to keep it going. It needs to just keep buying, get more people involved and keep buying, and get more people involved and keep buying. So when I make these videos about MicroStrategy, I often get asked about, what are my thoughts about Bitcoin or cryptocurrency in general? And my feeling about these types of things is I call them liabilities disguised as assets. Things like Bitcoin, gold, even US dollars. I don't like any of them because they're liabilities, but they're disguised as assets. Here's what I mean. So you take something like a Bitcoin, right? Let's say you have one. Let's say you own one Bitcoin, right? It doesn't generate any cash flow. It doesn't bring you any value. And then on top of that, you have to protect this asset. You have to take care of it. You have to monitor it. You have to make sure you don't lose it. And so you're basically giving up time and energy for the privilege of having this asset. And it's even worse with something like gold, because imagine if you own $100,000 of physical gold. Um, how are you going to protect that? Are you going to store it inside your house? That's not very safe, right? If somebody knows you have $100,000 worth of gold inside your house, how safe is that? Or, okay, are you going to store it in a safety deposit box somewhere? Well, now you have to pay out of your pocket, right? So that's that's an asset supposedly, but you're giving up money every month or every year for the privilege of having that asset. That's why I call it liabilities disguised as assets, because it's not putting money in your pocket. It's actually taking money out of your pocket. It's not giving you money. And then I hear the argument that say, well, the US is printing all of these dollars and they're going to continue printing dollars and the dollar is going to devalue. I would rather have Bitcoin. it's comparing one bad thing with another bad thing. I wouldn't want to own US dollars either. I would want to own things that generate cash flow, right? So if you're concerned that the US is printing too many dollars and the value of the dollar is going to devalue, there are better things you can own, like an apartment building or some real estate or a single family home that you can rent out that brings cash into your pocket. Or you can own some of these incredible businesses that are available for you to buy at reasonable prices. And that business generates profit every year that puts money in your pocket. So I would rather own something that puts money in my pocket rather than owning these types of things that are liabilities disguised as assets that take away things from me instead of giving me something. And I have to rely on and hope for finding somebody else I can sell it to at a higher price at some point in the future, rather than relying on the asset itself to generate cash flow because of its inherent value that it generates, whether it's a business or real estate, farmland, timberland, etc., things that generate cash flow because of their characteristics.
Hey everyone, so many of you have been asking about my investing strategy, and I'm excited to announce that I've written a book that's available for sale now that describes my 6-step investing framework for evaluating stocks. I've added the link in the description below.